Hello, and I'm Josh Smith from Content Collective. This is the show where I talk through all the content that I've been consuming this week and share with you any of the gems of knowledge that I've come across. The aim of this show is to help you find content that you find fun, enjoyable, interesting, and hopefully helpful too. This week, I've got 4 podcasts that I'm going to talk through, and as this is my first week, there will be quite a lot of time where I'm not looking at the camera, but we're working on that. Anyway, let's go. The first podcast that I listened to, I want to share, is with Williamson, and he has a show called Modern Wisdom. He had on a physician called Dr. Peter Attia. Now, Peter is a physician who specializes in the science of longevity. That's how to live longer, how to be healthier, how you can optimize performance. So it's not surprising that the name of this podcast is The Metrics That Matter Most to Longevity. It's a 2-hour podcast and they cover a ton of things. I'll touch a couple of them. So how to build a framework for longevity, fasting and its impacts on performance, the importance of strength and stability. They talk about artificial sweeteners and what their impacts are. They also talk about Peter's opinions on vaping. There's 3 things that I wanted to take a little bit of a deeper dive into today though. One of which is his 3 pillars for success. Now that is exercise, sleep and nutrition. I'm not going to go into detail with all 3 of them, but what he finds the most valuable at the moment is around the exercise pillar. Previously he had thought that the nutrition part was actually of more relevance. However, just with recent research, it's clearer to him that exercise really is key for longevity. Specifically with exercise, there's 2 things to be clear of here. That's your VO2 max and strength training. Those are the 2 most important things for longevity that he believes. VO2 max is the maximum rate of oxygen consumption attainable during physical exertion. I'll say that again. VO2 max is the maximum rate of oxygen consumption attainable during physical exertion. So basically, how great is your cardio fitness and your heart health really, leading to your heart health. Strength training is obviously lifting weights, progressive overload, keeping your body strong and mobile. And so he's saying these 2 things are like the clear indicators for what will give good longevity. If you have a high VO2 max and you're doing strength training, good level of strength training, it's an important factor for longevity, which makes sense to me because if your heart's super healthy and your body's efficient, working well, has the strength around your muscles to actually support your body, that's going to aid you in longevity. Second thing they touched on was that it is better to be 7 out of 10 every day than 10 out of 10 one day, 0 out of 10 another, 9 out of 10, 3 out of 10, all like that. It's better to be 7 out of 10 daily and consistent. So 10 out of 10 would be doing everything you could possibly be doing to improve your health. So doing good amounts of cardio, increasing that VO2 max, strength training, sleep, nutrition, all of that's on point. But it's better to do 7 out of 10, hitting good numbers on most of these points, but consistently than going in and burning out. People tend to go all in on things all the time, whether it be a diet, exercise, then after a few days they burn out, they stop, it goes back to 0. So it's better to have that consistency, starting small, build those good habits, and that'll make a big difference down the line. The last thing I want to touch on was Peter's attitude to risk, which was quite interesting. So this is what he calls the stakes. So Peter previously worked in some sort of risk management company in the US, so has like a different perspective on risk, but it's all about weighing up the benefits and costs, which sounds obvious, but it was an interesting part that they went into. So for example, one of Peter's friends invited him to go skiing, but Peter declined. Peter didn't want to go, and the reason that was because the stake of him getting injured, the chance of him breaking a leg, death, like the chance of that happening, or the risk of that is a lot higher than the benefit that he would get from going skiing. So like he doesn't mind skiing, but he doesn't find it that enjoyable. Whereas his friend, who is a big skier, loves skiing, the benefit they get from skiing is a lot higher. So to them, the risks that come with it isn't enough to put him off skiing. Obviously wants to ski. Now, they've referenced this in the vape discussion too. So when talking about the vaping, Peter was saying he hasn't seen enough studies to say either way if vaping causes adverse health effects or not. However, the benefits of having a vape, the short-term kick of nicotine, he says that's not a massive benefit. It's a short-term hit that you get in. Yes, you get that rush of nicotine, but it is just a short-term hit. There's a big boost that feels nice at the time. And whilst there could be absolutely nothing wrong medically, even though you're combusting flavours and nicotine together and then inhaling all that particles, obviously I'm not a doctor, this is not medical advice, there could be nothing wrong. The studies aren't conclusive at the moment. But the benefit that you get, to him, the risk of not knowing for sure that there is no issues is too high considering the relatively small benefit. The podcast will be linked below if you want to listen to that one. Really interesting. They go into a lot more other things as well. Second podcast I want to touch on is the Diary of a CEO with Stephen Bartlett. He had on Chris Williamson, whose podcast we were just talking about. Topic of discussion, or the title, was the shocking research on why men and women are no longer compatible. And this conversation covers lots of things from loneliness, dating apps, how to build confidence, and dealing with regrets. On the title, on why men and women are no longer compatible, apparently 78% of women want a man, or someone that they want to be as educated or more, or as employable or more than they are currently. Which, I mean, why not? I mean, do you want someone that's equally as good as you or better to be your partner? Yeah, it makes sense to have that, so you can see why that would be the case. The issue is that, obviously, as time's gone on, more women are in work, more women are highly educated. So that pool of men that they're looking for is decreased, which can cause a bit of a gap, a problem. Another thing they touch on, apparently 50% of men haven't had sex in the last year. And also over half the men that they interviewed also weren't actually interested in finding a woman. But they go into it in a bit more detail than I have just now, but if that interests you, give it a go. On the confidence part, stuff that I find quite interesting myself, so a bit more on that. Chris Williamson is full of phrases. He's got a library of terms, phrases, quotes from other people that he can just retain and call out at any moment. So he did it a few times in the podcast. One of the things that he touched on to do with confidence was a quote from Alex Hormozy. So Alex said that you don't become confident by looking in the mirror, shouting affirmations, geeing yourself up, telling yourself, yes, you're confident, you're the man, you can do it. That's not how you build confidence. You build confidence by building up a stack of undeniable proof. So it's the stacking up of experiences, getting that evidence again and again, providing yourself with examples of that, the fact that you can do something, is how we start to gain confidence. So for me, like running meetings at work, when I first started having to like run meetings, not massively confident in it, not knowing like the power of my own voice to speak up in a meeting and being worried and not that confident in those situations. But over time, another meeting down, you slowly build up that proof, that undeniable proof that yes, you can run a meeting. And then in time, then you get that confidence from that, and you go into a meeting and confidence is there. Joe Rogan has a similar metaphor for sort of talking about confidence, and he calls it building a mountain with layers of paint. So each layer of paint, super thin, but over time you keep stacking up, keep doing the things, keep getting more reps. Over time, those paint layers again and again will turn into a mountain. So for example, if you're not confident in public speaking, firstly, like, have you ever done it? For one, maybe you're not confident because you've not got experience in it, or you had a really bad experience when you were younger. But if you were to build up little experiences like meetings or whatever, speaking in front of 10 people, slowly build up these reps again and again and again, proving to yourself that you can do this, then over time, you build that stack of undeniable proof, that mountain of pain to prove that you can do it, to gain that confidence. That's not to say that you won't get nervous before these events. For me, some of the big meetings that I still go into, like my heart will be pounding and I'll be like a bit nervous beforehand. But I did see somewhere that nerves and excitement are like the same biological pathway. So it's like just adrenaline being released. So you can choose to take that feeling that you have beforehand as either nerves or excitement. I try and push myself down the route of going, I know I'm just excited for this, to try and trick myself into like being okay. But easier said than done. But you can choose to perceive that feeling, that adrenaline rush, as nerves or excitement. Another thing he talks about is that it all starts with action. Similar to what we were touching on there, just take those small steps, those small promises over time add up. For example, getting up when you say you're going to get up. If I set my alarm for 7:30, get up at 7:30, basically. Start building that confidence in yourself that you can do that. Jordan Peterson also says, make your bed. It's a bit of a meme, but it's like, yeah, you've got to make your bed. That's another layer. You get up on time and you say it. You've made your bed every day. You start building these things up. You keep your room tidy. Slowly, by like adding these good habits again and again, start to build confidence in yourself that you can do things. Another thing that he touches on is that people need to expand their time horizons. And this sort of links together as well. So people are too busy like wanting quick fixes all the time. And obviously what comes quick tends to go quick. It's the slow changes over time where things start to happen. You can't expect big changes to happen in a week or sometimes even a month. It takes a bit of time. It's the small incremental steps over time that make a big difference. A 1% improvement every day over a year leads to a 3,800% improvement year on year. A 1% daily improvement every day over a year leads to a 3,800% improvement overall. Whilst 1% decrease every day for a year leads to a 97% drop in value from the beginning. Now, 1%, you're probably not going to get 1% worse every day, nor potentially not even 1% better every day. But that just sort of shows like how tiny little changes, a 1% changes, tiny change, getting out of bed in time one day, making your bed the next after you've got out of bed on time. Slowly every day these build up and massive changes year on year. There's also the consideration that inaction is a choice. This is what Jordan Peterson says. He says inaction is a choice. So you've got the choice to either do the thing or not do the thing. By not doing the thing, you're choosing to not do the thing. You're choosing not to make the change. So being inactive, not doing what you wanted to do or what you set yourself to do, isn't just doing nothing. It's that you're choosing to do something in the face of doing something else. In the face of doing something to improve yourself, to be better for yourself. The last thing I wanted to touch on from this podcast, going on quite a bit here on this one, but I find this stuff quite interesting, so I want to share it a bit more, is to do with the concept of regrets. And there's a phrase, and I forgot who said the phrase, but it is, in life, we have to choose our regrets. So they say, don't have regrets in life. Don't have regrets. Well, sorry, people will have regrets in life. Everyone will have regrets. Whether that's the banker that worked too hard at work and then regrets the time that he didn't spend with his family. People have regrets in life. The dream they didn't chase is a regret. Exactly. So the better way to look at it is you've got to choose your regrets. Regrets are going to happen and you've got to choose those regrets. For example, if you had a dream that you wanted to start a bakery, you've only really got two options. You either follow the dream, chase the dream, and try and build the bakery, but you could fail. You could fail and then, it didn't work. Or you can not try and follow your dream and build the bakery because you don't want to fail. And at least if you don't try, you don't fail. However, by not trying, you are failing anyway. So, I mean, it's better. The argument is it better to try following your dream, opening the bakery at risk that you might fail, and you may regret that failure? Or do you not even try in the first place, regretting the fact that you never tried to chase your dream of what could have been possible? So you've got to choose your regrets. If you see a girl at the bar that's attractive, would you rather not speak to her, regret the possibility of finding the girl of your dreams, or speak to her? But you could make a massive fool out of yourself and regret the fact that you spoke to her. So you've got to choose your regrets. There's options, but you're always going to regret something. Make the choice of what you're going to regret. You have to choose. In life, you can have anything you want, but you can't have everything you want. You can work hard, you can achieve anything, but you can't achieve everything. I've been struggling for example to use for this, but hopefully just me saying that in such a powerful way there, you get the point. But yeah, as you can tell, I'm quite interested in that sort of stuff, so I went into a bit of detail there. But again, we'll link that podcast below if you want to give it a listen. Sounds interesting to you. Podcast number 3 was Lex Fridman and a guy called Paul Rosolie. This one was really cool. This one was about being in the Amazon. So Paul is a conservationist, explorer, author, filmmaker, and looks after about 50,000 acres of Amazon rainforest. And during this podcast, they talk about how Paul left the US when he was 18, went to the Amazon to work in a research center. But there's tons of stories they go through. The podcast is like 3.5 hours. It's a really long podcast, but it's just cool stories about things that he's got up to his life, really interesting life. Things like catching anacondas. He's been on the Discovery Channel, so they talk about that a little bit. They talk through what it takes to survive in the Amazon. They talk about some of the uncontacted tribes in the Amazon that will kill you if you go anywhere near them. Talks about times where he's been surrounded by crocodiles. They talk about aliens, and they talk about ayahuasca, and then finally the meaning of life. So, they talk through a lot of things. I like Lex's podcast. He is a very technical guy, but also like quite a deep guy as well. Evidently by discussing the meaning of life at the end there, it goes through all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I thought it was a really cool podcast, just quite an interesting one to listen to, just to have on and just learn about the Amazon really. So if that sounds interesting to you, link below. And then the final podcast I want to talk to you about today is a podcast from Lewis Hose. He had on Heng, which I could be pronouncing wrong. Now, she is a Shaolin master, and the podcast name is Shaolin Master Reveals the Secrets to Self-Mastery. So, self-improvement, self-mastery, mastering yourself, etc. Now, Heng comes across as like such a wise, peaceful, intelligent, really well thought out in his responses to questions, just communicates so well, oozes wisdom. You're listening to him, like, really thinks about an answer, has a very methodical way of speaking, slow cadence, very zen, to be fair. For a Shaolin master, probably fits the bill. And they discuss self-mastery, so how to master yourself, what to watch out for, the 5 hindrances, which are sensual desire, ill will, dullness, restlessness, and skeptical doubt. So they talk in some detail about all of those and sort of what to watch out for with those. With ill will, for example, one of the questions was like, well, how do you make sure that you don't have these feelings? And what she said was that it's not about not having these feelings. We have all these feelings in our life, and you're not trying to not have these feelings. It's like, how do you move past those feelings? It's like acknowledging that I'm having these feelings and moving past them. There's tons of gems of wisdom in this podcast, sort of rivaling Chris Williamson's level of quotes. So you got like the level of quotes and the level of wisdom. Pretty level, to be fair. Very good podcast. And also my notes have run out. My typed notes have run out, so I'm now on handwritten notes, old school. But yeah, the last thing I wanted to touch on with that podcast, something to do with manifestation. And the way he describes it is in the example of using heaven, man, earth. Bear with me. I'm going to butcher it. Watch the podcast to actually get the proper explanation, but I'm going to sort of talk through how I interpreted what he said or took in, whatever. You've got earth. Earth's real. Earth's tangible. Earth has shape to it. Earth has shape to it, has structure. It's specific. Whereas heaven, earth is limited as well. It's by the bounds of the shape, earth. Heaven is limitless. The opposite. It could be anything. It's, heaven is full of things that don't exist. Things only become real when others can see it. So how do we make things happen? So if you want to manifest something, really you are reaching out to heaven. You're reaching out to something that doesn't exist. You're thinking about something that doesn't exist, and then you want to manifest it. So clearly by wanting to manifest it, the thing isn't there, it doesn't exist, you don't have it, you're not a billionaire, you haven't got that business that you want, you haven't released that book that you want to do, or started your YouTube journey yet. These are all these thoughts that you want to manifest. They're thoughts, they don't exist. They're not real, they don't have structure, shape, or substance. In order to get it onto the real world, you need to make it happen. In order to do that, you need a plan, which you need to follow sort of step by step. So you have to give that thought a reality. Now that can be writing it down. You can be writing it down, putting it up on your fridge, saying it out loud to people, letting people know this is what I'm going to do. But you need to connect it to the real world. He also mentions how really to make this work, you need to link it to an affirmation. They didn't go into too much detail on how affirmations work though, so I don't have too much context for that. But yeah, so I've written it down, I've got my idea what I want to manifest. So you need a plan of how you're going to achieve that. And for you to be able to achieve this thing, most likely you're going to need skills to be able to do this thing. So for example, releasing like a YouTube video thing, reviewing podcasts, for example. What skills are needed for that? Well, communication skills. You need to be able to speak. You need to have a voice. You need to be able to speak, communicate well so people can listen to it. You also need to be able to edit videos and then post, work out how a channel works, all that sort of stuff. Do you have any of those skills? Do I have any of those skills? Communication wise, something I've been working on, trying to improve my communication skills. One pillar, okay. Video editing, no, never done that skill at all. However, after this video, before it gets released, I'll be trying to build that skill. And the last one, yeah, working a channel, not a clue. But again, this is a skill that I need to work on. In order to get to where you want to go, you need to know where you are now. Similarly, if you don't know where you want to move, you need to at least first know where you are now. So me just then, where am I? I've got some communication skills. I don't have video editing skills. I don't have posting video skills. It's also sort of not just what skills, what time do I have, what resources do I have, what are my abilities, etc. In order to gain a skill, you need to work hard. Skills aren't just given. Skills take a lot of hard work and dedication. And he touched on Kung Fu. Apparently Kung Fu is the attainment of a hard skill. The other thing you need to be conscious of is that you need the mindset to be able to back it up. So if you've got two people both chasing the same goal, one person who has a very driven, enthusiastic mindset that, yes, I'm going to do this thing. And on the other side, you've got another guy who's, just doesn't have that drive. Yeah, I'd like to do this thing, but who's going to win? Who's going to win? Mr. Enthusiastic or Mr. Doesn't care? Enthusiasm, not enthusiasm specifically, but having that mindset, a positive mindset to back up the plan and to know to put in that hard work makes a massive difference. And they also touch on sort of why people fail. Some people fail at the same thing again and again and again. Well, maybe that's because they haven't failed enough at that thing yet. They haven't seen the lesson in those failures. If I fail at something, I'll try to think of an example. Certain things you fail at, you can see the lesson straight away. You're like, okay, that's why I failed. Don't do that anymore. I'll do this. Other things, you may fail at the same thing again and again. Failed relationship, keep failing at work, keep failing at the gym. I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that, whatever. You keep failing at the same thing again. And the reason is because you haven't actually learned from that failure yet. Sometimes you need to have gone through that failure so many times that you realize what's wrong to actually fix it. You can't teach people who are not willing to learn. So that's sort of similar to the whole failing because you're not in a position to be able to understand the learnings. But yeah, it's also just to be conscious, you can't teach people that aren't going to learn, words of wisdom from my main man, She. Yeah, the last thing on there that I just had a note on was to do with never having enough. One of the final closing things on Lewis's podcast is that he asked for if you were to die and everything that you put out into the world, all the content you released, teachings, whatever, went with you, and you could only give 3 things to the world in terms of these are the 3 things that I want you to know. It was to do with a cup. And we're born, when we're born, we are this cup. And our parents fill in water in this cup. Our school puts more things in the cup. We go to uni, we have a job. The cup's being filled up with all these ideas and thoughts. Every now and again, you've got to empty the cup. Because we never feel like we have enough. We never think like we have enough. We always want more. But we don't actually know what we want. We don't know who we are. And that's because our cup is filled with all these ideas and other things. The government, marketing, advertisements, family, friends, social media, all these things feeling like your thing. You need to learn to empty that cup. Yeah, you need to learn to empty the cup. And then you are the cup. You are the cup. But yeah, that was quite a cool one. And that's the final one I want to talk through. I didn't have an ending at all planned for this. Probably should have planned that far ahead. But yeah, these are the 4 podcasts that I wanted to go through this week. Hopefully you found that interesting. If you found that interesting, if you found it valuable, please share, comment, all those things. Subscribe. I don't know, it's my first time. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed that. I'm going to try and do more of this, see how it goes. Keep sharing that content, provide some value to the world back. Ultimately, all I've been doing for years is just consuming content, taking all this stuff in, and I'm just consuming. And I want to be able to provide some value back to the world. I don't know what that is. Maybe this is it, but we're going to give it a try at least. We'll catch you on the next one. That's what Tim the Tatman says. I can't use that. I don't know what to end my video with, and so because of that, I'm just going to keep speaking. Hopefully my video is still going. Hopefully you enjoyed that. Take care and have a great day. See you later.